Today, I wanted to talk about a phrase commonly said by Saint Tonetoss, the Wuthering Waves-focused anti-Hoyoverse content creator. No, this is not to start drama or anything with the guy. I'll have you know I actually have not been keeping up with his current situation after my hiatus. All I know is something about Eastern WoWa creators and him going at each other. I don't know what's going on. I don't exactly have the time or care to look into that kind of stuff anyway, now that I have a full-time job. I don't need to keep track of him anyway to make an accurate assumption of what he'll say. It's like dropping a leaf into a river. You know it's going to go downstream before the leaf even touches the water. I'm getting off track here. The quote? Oh yeah, right. If Zenless Zone Zero does X, the game will die. I'm paraphrasing here because there are a lot of variations to the quote, but the intent remains the same, typically referring to ZZZ's handling of its endgame content, be it HP inflation, agent power creep, shilling, the list goes on. I'm going to spend the remainder of the video dissecting this comment because this kind of statement could honestly translate to any high-profile gacha game currently on the market. I'm just going to come out and say it. No, Zenless Zone Zero will not die from a more restrictive endgame. The gacha game industry sustains itself financially on the most casual of video game players, from its accessibility to anyone with a modern smartphone, to its daily playable content offerings meant to fit into even the most restricted person's work-life balance. When put in this context, a majority of the audience for gacha games as a whole just barely have the free time or personal drive to finish most permanent content for any one of these games, but not all of it. They go at their own pace, even if said pace comes at the cost of missing time-sensitive rewards or even overcapping on their stamina. If you are someone who regularly keeps up with event content within 48 hours of the content unlocking gradually, you frequent gacha social media communities, or are frequently asking for advice or help to improve your account, in my eyes, you are not a casual gacha player. You are a casual video game player. I know that sounds confusing, but I think this distinction is important. If your average casual video game dad has an hour or two to play Call of Duty on a worknight, then your average casual gacha player has even less than that, maybe 20 or 30 minutes at best to play. From my personal experience, I know half a dozen other men at my workplace who play gacha games, both below and above me in the corporate hierarchy. And none of them put the same amount of dedication or even effort into playing gacha games the same way myself, my brother, or even any of the social media posters I see do. But they put in a similar amount of money into these games that I and my brother do every few months or so, despite having massive gaps in their story and account progression. They treat these games just like they would Candy Crush or Clash of Clans, just a distraction that can be squeezed into their day-to-day lives that just so happen to have higher production values. They don't care about some far-flung future state of endgame content because they haven't even finished a third of Penacony from Honkai Star Rail, yet are more than willing to spend just as much if a character catches their eye, and then proceed to build them with the kind of investment you would see in an account review video. Bad gear and underleveled skills galore. Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero, and any future high-profile gacha won't die from a poorly handled endgame because the target audience is nowhere near said endgame. As for everyone else who does have the free time and investment into these games and have issues with content offerings or endgame, you've completely lost the plot of how gacha games are meant to fit into the busy schedule of a person's day-to-day life anyway, and you should probably just be playing an actual video game at this point. Bad endgame won't kill Zenless Zone Zero because there is plenty of Zenless Zone Zero to play for many people before endgame is even an issue for them. And in the event that they do make it to endgame, they're more than likely content with whatever score they get every rotation and don't have the time, energy, or personal investment to complain about it. This is the case for every successful mainstream gacha game. And in the case of a Hoyoverse game in particular, this is especially true because of its mainstream dominance. Here's the thing you have to understand about Hoyoverse. They are not a game development team. Not anymore. They have evolved into an ecosystem that several video games developed by them reside in. It's in their rebranded name, a universe that holds many possibilities born from the seed of the MiHoYo team, a Hoyoverse. Honkai Impact 3's success is the success of Hoyoverse. Genshin Impact's success is the success of Hoyoverse. Honkai Star Rail's success is the success of Hoyoverse. Zenless Zone Zero's success is the success of Hoyoverse. And the upcoming Honkai Nexus Anima's success will be the success of Hoyoverse. There is a concept in business known as the loss leader, a product or service provided to customers at a loss to the company in hopes of profit from additional products that orbit around the original product. Milk is sold as a loss leader by storing them at the back of grocery stores, so shoppers have to cross several shopping aisles to get to it, in hopes that people may stop to grab anything they pass by on the way to get the milk. A video game console is a one-time purchase sold at a loss by manufacturers in hopes of making a profit from game sales, in-app purchases, and subscription services. Hoyoverse can market and run any one of their games at a loss for a period of time if another game is going through a profitable period, as the goal is to keep customers in the Hoyoverse ecosystem. Players are constantly reminded of and exposed to Genshin, HSR, and ZZZ as an option to move to if another has a content drought. With all of this in mind, it should be clear to anyone not attempting to stoke the flames of Gacha wars that a lot would have to go wrong across all of the Hoyoverse games for Zenless Zone Zero to truly die, from content offerings to sales performance. And just to elaborate on that for a moment, those two things would need to happen for several consecutive months before there would even be a cause for caution by the company. A single month's worth of the guessing game revenue chart that every React slot tuber likes to bring up is not substantial enough. With all of this in mind, I think it should at least be fair to say that Hoyoverse know what they're doing and is completely aware of what they need to do with all three of their games and is not about to just sleepwalk into a point of no return that would spell disaster for any one of their IPs, Zenless Zone Zero included. ZZZ is not an open-world action-adventure gacha game. It is an instance-based hack-and-slash action game. It does not need the same amount of budget, resources, and profit to be sustainable when compared to its sibling games or its competitors. If we were talking about the idea that the accessibility of ZZZ's endgame will die, then we would be having a completely different conversation, one that has been treaded by both experts and tourists countless times before me. Before I go, I would like to address the idea of Saint Tontas covering ZZZ out of a desperation for ad revenue. I think this statement is both true and false at the same time. If we are talking about direct revenue, then this statement does not hold any water, as ZZZ is on the lower end of his analytical performance on his channel. But it is profitable to Saint Tontas in how it influences his revenue within the Wuthering Waves ecosystem of content creation. Saint covers any one of the Hoyoverse games with the intent to present it in a negative light and potentially draw people away from those games. He then provides an alternative in Wuthering Waves, or whatever his main game is right now, which in turn lines up with his primary video content. He cultivates new audience members around the game he mains, which strengthens the game's community, his own community, and by extension, his content. Then he sees a boost in revenue from the aforementioned growth. It's not a short-term strategy of farming hate for views and ad revenue. It is a long-term strategy that gradually trickles in unsatisfied customers from Hoyoverse games with an alternative that he sees incentives and compensations from for cultivating in a second or even a third-order effect. However, the aforementioned cultivation of former Hoyoverse players does have its own limit, as despite anti-Hoyoverse culture becoming more and more apparent in online spaces, it will never reach audiences beyond the few who are actively looking for anti-Hoyoverse content when compared to the numerous amount of newcomers exposed to Hoyoverse's marketing regularly at a ratio that neither you nor I can accurately conceptualize, let alone quantify. Saint Tontas' message cannot reach enough people because said people either don't care, don't take gacha games as seriously, or don't even know of his existence to begin with. How can you have a problem with Hoyoverse if you don't even know what the problem is they're talking about, or you don't even know who is talking about said problem? And as long as this continues to be the case, none of the Hoyoverse games will ever come close to end of service. Opposing creators might make Hoyo bleed, but it would be ignorant to believe that Hoyo themselves are not capable of patching their own wounds. And remember, they have countless people who are ready to step forward and offer to put pressure on said wounds. all the while never even knowing who cut them in the first place.